We're live. I am glad to be back. So it's been a little while. This is our 17th episode. I took a little bit of a break here, about 8 weeks, and I am now back doing some interviews with folks. I am joined here with Trinity Cunningham, and she has a new book coming out. So let me go ahead and introduce her. She is an author of the epic fantasy trilogy, The Guardians of the Weldafire Stone. She has found her passion delving into fictional worlds and bringing to life new settings and characters. When not writing, Trinity enjoys playing music and singing, reading, watching films, photography, and spending time with friends and family. We are here today for the release of, I believe this is the third book in your series. So this is Inherent Bound, and we'll be digging into that. So I'm going to give Trinity a chance to either pitch this specific book or your series in general, but we'll let you kick it off and tell people why they should care.
Yeah, working on that. No. Inherent Bound is, it just came out yesterday, and I still don't have physical copies in hand, but I do have a paper of the cover, which is great. I had a spiel that I was working on, and but it's, I'm going to blank now. The Guardians of the Weldafire Stone series is the magical stone that indwells the life of the country and requires a guardian to unite the land and the people, and each book follows a different guardian. So I could pitch the whole series as that. And the third one is about Mark is given a promise to fulfill something and is forced to leave his home to go and pursue this promise. That's kind of in a nutshell right now. I'm still working on that part. It's really bad.
There. Yeah. We'll clip that and we'll share it out to everybody forever.
Yeah, right. I have something written down, and I was like, oh, I should get it up. And then, like, the last second here, I was like, oh, no, I'm too late. I should have had it up and ready to go.
It's all a lesson. We're all learning here. It's fine. We're just doing this live. So, okay, so this is the third book. Is this the final book in your series?
Yeah. So it's the trilogy completed. It's a prequel. So it's before the curse, and before there was ever a guardian, there was Mark, and there was the rebellion, and it'll kind of just bring the whole series around full circle. That's the idea there.
To have this series done, that's one of those things that's like an accomplishment and a milestone for.
It's just a lot better than I thought it would. I was just writing and just putting it out and just going along with it. But then as soon as this one was done, I actually didn't realize how much I just needed to release that and be like, hey, it's done. It feels real good actually. So I'm definitely celebrating a whole lot on with internally and externally. I've definitely been probably driving people crazy now on social media. Everyone's getting sick of seeing my face.
Okay, so I'd love to go back. So when was the first book released for this?
I started writing them in 2020. I published Bloodbound in 2023, November. Okay. So, yeah. And then Unbound was the next year, 2024, exactly a year later. And now I skipped 2025 and decided not to rush because this one took me a lot longer to write. It was a more challenging one for sure. So by the time I was finished a first draft, it was it's not coming out a year exactly.
So I always have to kind of ask people, especially when you're doing the series, did you know where you were going at the end, or did it change, or was it a surprise for you?
There were surprises, but I knew where it was going, which is why I wrote it in the order that I did. I say this. I try not to it's difficult. The Inherent Bound, at least, is a difficult one for me to talk about without spoilers.
Yeah.
I try not to give too much away. So I'm still figuring out what's okay to say, what's not. But it was one that I always knew the story. I always knew where it would end. And so when I wrote Bloodbound and I wrote Unbound, I locked myself in so that I've secured the story and I changed how it's going to end. Staying true to there were surprises that still came up that I didn't anticipate, and I didn't know exactly how the ending would come about in Inherent Bound. I had written a first kind of the ending scene. I had written it out, and I was like, something about that isn't fitting, isn't clicking. So I ended up kind of just sleeping on it for a while, and then I had this epiphany, and I'm like, this is it. And as soon as I had that, it was like it was always meant to be that. It just needed to occur to me, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that does. So I'm curious. You mentioned that you had the two released, one and then the next year. This one took an extra year. You didn't want to rush it. I'm curious as far as like what did you find needed more time with this last book?
Well, that's a good question because, like, I don't know if I can nail it down to exactly what it was. A mixture of what I was, I guess, just a little bit of reluctance on my part, maybe a little bit of reluctance of wanting certain things to play out certain way, like in the story, but needing to write, and like I said, stay true to the story. So I was just like, I'm just gonna do it. I'm gonna suck it up and get through. And also, like, I mean, yourself as a writer, I'm sure you know, like, we wear our heart in our words, and there's certain circumstances in the story, in the plot, that are very real to me on a personal level, like where there were circumstances that I could just heavily relate to that were still difficult to deal with, like even years later after like incidences occurring. So it was just kind of facing my own little past issues, I guess, and hashing them out myself and getting past these barriers of being able to just accept things that happened, move forward. So it was difficult on a lot of levels in that regard.
How does it feel now that it's done? As far as like, do you plan to? Is this the final place for these characters, and you're releasing them? Do you have a plan to come back to this world, to these characters? Like, how does that feel? I guess depending on either way you're going there too.
Well, the Guardians of the Weldafire Stone trilogy is done. That's complete.
Yeah.
So any story that is revolving around the Guardian themselves is done. But there are side characters in at least in Unbound who I have plans for for a later book, a later series. I have a female protagonist who kind of just took off on her own and has like, I don't even know what happened. She wrote herself. She just kind of came into being and was like, I'm in this story, whether you like it or not. So she's got kind of a side quest story that will take place. It'll be like, hopefully, I'm hoping it'll be a five part novella series. So something shorter, if I can do that. I'm trying. I'm not very good at writing short. Um, but yeah, for her, and then another book rather, with that same character and a few others that are familiar faces, go on an adventure that I have been sort of plotting in my head over time. And I have another story that takes place in the same world, but you won't see any of the same characters. It's just a different country, but it's still kind of on this continent. Yeah, that's kind of like I think every time I start something new or think of some of the characters, I have so many ideas that I can expand on that I'm like, oh yeah, that's a story. I might even do like a prequel and go back to, the origin of the Weldafire Stone in itself. But that wouldn't be like a Guardian story. It would just be like an origin tale. So I kind of just, lots of ideas up there.
Awesome. So this is, I believe that this is an epic fantasy series. More what I've heard was more of like classic style. So what inspired you to start writing in this genre, this style? Is it just something that you loved? Is it I'm interested where that interest came from.
It was an accident.
Yes.
I,
Like
I started writing sci-fi. I thought it was going to be a sci-fi, and I was like, I had this plan in my head, and then I started writing and making up random places and names of things and plants, and I'm like, that's not really sci-fi anymore. So it kind of just happened, but I rolled with it. I loved where it went, and I think sometimes like it's just the way that the story is intended to happen. That's how it came out, so that's how it must be.
Are you a sci-fi fan in general?
Yeah, I am. I'm kind of learning about myself that every sci-fi book that I've loved versus movie I've seen, I do tend to enjoy the movies better. But that's just because I love the visual effects, and my first love was always photography and cinematography and film. But I do enjoy sci-fi. I love sci-fi when it's sci-fi, not when it's real life. I should clarify that because there's a lot of real life stuff that's like would have been sci-fi back not even that many years ago. And I'm like, yeah, I don't like real life sci-fi. Like
We're
sci-fi,
starting to enter like the next stage of yeah, that I can
yeah,
feel that.
and it's a little bit frightening. So I'm like, I like fiction. I want fictional stories. But yeah, no, it's that would be. I definitely have plans for some sci-fi down the road that I hope will actually stay. They should stay sci-fi.
Excellent. What got you into writing in the first place?
It's probably a combination of everything. Growing up, I always loved writing. I did journaling. I wrote songs. I did study screenwriting for a few years, or I should say, I studied for a little bit and then I wrote for a few years. But I guess just like it was more in 2020 when I sat down to seriously write a book, which was a little bit impulsive of me. I didn't really think it through. It was just like I needed to get thoughts out and I needed to explore what was in my head and bring it to the page and delve into it because it was therapy. It was for me. It's very selfish.
All right,
Yeah.
so you've mentioned both in your intro that you sent me and just now that you are music buff to some degree. Now, have you had to write a song into any of your novels?
Yes, yes, I have. Bloodbound has a couple songs, and I had this big plan. My brother is in music, and he's actually studying it in British Columbia, and he's like going to school for it. His girlfriend is like a composer. She just got her degree in something. Like we should work together and make my like this a song because I have it all in my head. So we started to. We had this whole project kind of underway, but I mean, life gets so busy, and he's in school, so that's like busy, busy. So it's just like, okay, this is on hold if it ever happens again. But I do have this vision in my head of how it's going to come out. But yeah, no, written songs for Bloodbound and Inherent Bound. I think there might be one in Unbound. Just words that I probably didn't really have a melody to. It was just, it varies. It depends on the song and the placement of it.
It's funny. I have one song in one of my books, and I had somebody in a writers group that offered to actually like turn it into music, and then you could put it in the book with the music so that they could play it. And then he never came back, so I was actually very disappointed. It's like
Oh,
you sold me on this idea, and I thought that was so cool, and now it's
yeah, yeah. It is a cool. I
yeah,
love that. That would be lots
I
of
don't know how
fun.
to do that. I can't do it.
I don't have the equipment to. If I recorded something, I'd want it to be like high end quality at least, like not with my kids screaming in the background, sort of
Yeah,
thing,
that
which
makes
is what it
sense for
would
sure.
be. But it's I mean, it was also kind of like the way I wrote it was very intentionally out of my vocal range. So it's like I'm not the person to sing it. I don't want that to be my voice.
So here, good use of technology. I have an audiobook narrator. I made him sing the song in the book. He did his best. Uh,
Oh,
he did really like he probably could have done better if he didn't pick such a deep voice for the
right.
character.
Oh,
Um,
okay, yeah,
so I took, this is the technology. I sung it, and then I skinned over his voice with my voice, or
oh,
skinned
hey,
over my voice with his voice, and it actually turned out pretty good. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool.
nice. That's a cool idea.
Yeah, it's like it's one way to do it.
Play around with voice effects and different things. Like, yeah, I know there is stuff that you can do. I'm too busy writing.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, this is like little side projects that are
Yeah.
fun. I think those things are fun though when we have people that are like either into poetry or
Mhm.
songs. I find that even the things that I've read that they tend to put them into the stories and
That's
adds
fun.
a richness that's unusual. Like you don't typically get that.
Yeah, yeah, I like that. That's cool.
All right. So I always generally ask folks about kind of the process of bringing their books to life. This is your third book, so I imagine you've learned things along the way. And I know from at least my own experience that as you release these later books in the series, like some of the process has to change in order to accommodate them. Like it's harder to do things like arcs or beta reads, etc., because text maybe that's missing. So I'm curious as far as what your experience has been as you've gone through and done like a first book versus a second book. And you've learned things, but also now you're in a series. So what has that been like for you?
It has been a process. A process is a good word. I started out, like I said, impulsively, just sat down and started writing. I was very much the definition of the word pantser, because literally I wrote by the seat of my pants. Um, for the second book, I had more of a plan. It was always the original idea that had started the whole series, so it was much easier to like know what I wanted to happen, what I needed to happen, certain events, certain things, and I had a lot of fun with that one because the character was just really fun to be with. Um, and then the third book, like I said, I struggled with it a lot more. I plotted things out, and I just had to go back. I almost had to like revert back to writing by the seat of my pants, just because I needed words down and I was struggling to think about how to push it forward. So I would just sit down and write whatever. Um, it made for a very sloppy first draft, but that's the beauty of revising, is going back and being able to fix it. So I'm finding I'm a little bit between. I do really well when I just sit down to write, but I like to have something of an idea of where I want to get it, at least within the next 5 to 10 chapters. If that's even on the higher end for what I would typically have it up to. But as far as like beta reads and arc reads, I've always struggled with that right from the get-go. It's like I write so many words, and I think a lot of people are like, oh, that many words, it's daunting. Like, I get it. It's a big time commitment, and it's a huge ask. So it's difficult to get people committed and on board. My books, I've always advertised them as a sort of standalone series as well. So they because they follow a different guardian, different character in each book, they work well alone as well. Obviously, better as a completed series, like as the three. But if somebody were just to pick up Unbound, which is the second book, they there would be a beginning and a conclusion with that character, and it wouldn't feel like I feel like I missed something with other characters. So it's like that was nice in advertising it as like you can read this without having read the other.
Yeah, that's an interesting approach, and as far as having the series. So I'm gathering the premise here is that there's these guardians, so you have the three different individuals and you're following their arcs in each one. So yeah, that you have that kind of standalone.
Yeah.
So that gives you that lower barrier of entry. Have people like? Would you say that you need to go in order, or could you pick up like because they're essentially a different origin story for each one? Like you can start with a different individual.
I think you could like go in, and I don't know. I feel like the reading experience would just be better with all three of them starting at Bloodbound. And I was saying I have yet for somebody to tell me that the prequel is a better place. It's just brand new, so it's like I'm curious to hear what feedback people give and like if it's a better place they think to start. But there's little Easter eggs in there, like about I have one character who's in all three, and in the first and second, in Bloodbound and Unbound, he's not a point of view character. He's just a character who's there. He's villainous and whatnot. But then in Inherent Bound, he gets a point of view, and writing him was like, I've known this guy for like how many years now. So it was really fun to throw some stuff in there that people who have read Bloodbound will understand in Inherent Bound and be like, oh, okay, like this kind of like, and certain little like, not as much of a twist at the end of a book, but just kind of a revealing thing that is common knowledge in other books. So just like information that's there, that's already present and just there in all the books. If you haven't read that one, you would miss like the reveal. But otherwise, you could pick it up easily, and I think catch on. I think the only one maybe I don't know. It's hard because I've been in this world for 6 years. In my mind, it's like I just like have lived there for so long. It's hard to know how people perceive it. And maybe some are like, I would have liked to have read the other one first, where some people are like, oh, I totally got it without having read anything else.
Yeah.
I've had mixed kind of feedback on that too. So particularly with Unbound, but we'll see how it goes with Inherent Bound.
So this is you've described this as having a lot of action and an adventure. So do you feel this is a faster pace? Like, I guess I'm interested as far as like what does that mean to you? Like, is there a lot of battles, like a lot of epic type, things like that, or
That's just a good word. It's epic is battles. It's not super fast paced. I know that I write like build you into it, grow into these characters, like them, and then battle kind of thing. But there's lots of action in that. There are lots of battles. There's lots of kind of hints at war and the underlying like action sequences like that occur in Inherent Bound. The character is like someone described him as a super soldier. I'm like, yeah, okay, that's fair. he's very much like he's brought up and trained in battle and fighting. So like his life is constantly one fight after the next. Yeah, and just action. I guess I just think of it like action sequences where there's lots going on, lots of things happening in one scene with different like various characters at once, which is very difficult. Thinking about it, I'm like, I don't know how I pulled that off, but it's I guess that's how I would put it. But yeah, not super fast paced in the plot as far as like you get in and it's just like right off the hop, boom boom. Not quite so.
that's good to know as far as that. So I'm curious as far as when you think of like your favorite thing to write, is it like the cliche stuff is like, do you like the dialogue, the interactions between the characters, some of like those battle sequences? Some people really love writing that kind of stuff. Like maybe it's even the softer stuff in between, like the transitions.
I struggle with the transitions. I would probably go with the cliche of dialogue. I think in dialogue. So when I create a new scene, and when I'm working with new characters and I'm delving into the scene, the dialogue is the first thing that comes to me, and just how they'll banter back and forth, and how that will create or form sort of what their character looks like in my head, and I'll work around that. So I do love that because it comes. I like talking. I do talking well, so I guess that probably says something about me and my writing. I don't love beats. I don't like writing. I read a book where the author did it. There was like 5 characters in a room, and it was dialogue, 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 like constantly down the row. Each one saying something different, but I could tell who said what every single time because he'd done so well at building these characters to be like their character, how they talk. So when he did that, I was like,
should have locked that door.
When he did that, I was like, I want to do that. Like, I don't want to have to do all these beats of like he said or he did this action just to like know who's talking. Like when I get to that point,
gotta get that very distinct individual voice in each of your characters. Yeah, that's definitely a skill set, because I think a big complaint that I hear is like, oh, your characters sound all the same.
yeah, it's hard then.
Yeah, some effort. I give a lot of props to the folks that are very good at making distinct people.
Yeah, well, this author happened. It's like, I mean, he's written so many books, and I think this was like the 7th in the same series with the same character. So
you get to know them, then, yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
All right. So with this book, what you spent more time with it. You talked about having to get that rough first draft down, and then you go into an editing process. I'm curious what that editing process looks like for you as far as like refining. do you just kind of go through, get that first draft out, and then go back through it, and then it's like a year or so of kind of processing through that? It's
Yeah, more or less. That's kind of like write the first draft, get it all on the page, and then go back and like write a second. Although walk away for a while. I usually try to walk away for about 4 weeks or so and not look at it, because then when I come back, I've been out of it for a little bit. I can come back fresh. I say that now, and like I do also go back and edit while I write. So I'll be writing. It depends, because I'm a little bit of a pantser and do this going through. Sometimes something will come along down the like in the story, and I'll be like, oh, actually that's the way things are going to go. So then I'll have to go back and just make a note for myself. Either I can change it in the moment depending on how drastic it is, or it's like it's a small thing, or it's a big enough thing that I'm going to be like, that's going to be a whole thing to change. So I'll just make a note to alter. So I will go back and do a little bit of that, but ultimately I'm moving forward and getting to the end so that I have the bigger picture. So from there I can revise and clean it up and make it sharp. And usually after I have a second or third draft is when I'm kind of ready to send to anybody to look at, like beta readers or an editor.
Yeah.
Get the feedback then, because at least it's like not the messy first draft, which I did send my messy first draft to my editor the first time, and I was like,
I'm sorry.
That was extensive rewrites, and yes, I'm sorry. I can't believe anybody read that. Like, but it was good, because it was definitely a learning curve, and she taught me so much through that process. So it was needed, but I've learned since.
Yeah, I can. This whole thing of just look, as I've written, and you definitely learn stuff from the School of Hard Knocks. I would say the send your editor the super rough draft, and they're like, oh man, too, I got some stuff for you.
Yeah. I thought that was perfect. What?
Wasn't that good? I don't know.
I remember. Go ahead.
I love knowing the different ways that people manage this stuff, because like I think a lot of people, when they're starting out to write and they're trying to figure out their own process, it's like you don't necessarily know, and you're trying to work it out, and you're like, am I weird? Like, am I doing this wrong? It's like, I don't know if there is a wrong, as long as you're making forward progress. So it's like, somebody I think I saw was asking the other day, like, how long should you walk away from it? It's like, I don't know that I do, but other people do. So it's really just what works for you. Like, you gotta find the thing that's like, if you need the clear eyes, like maybe that does need to walk away, and maybe you need to try some different period of time to try and do that. Or like, yeah, I think that's fun. Have you had to ever like fully just gut and rewrite a whole chapter on yourself?
Yeah. That was that ending scene that I was mentioning earlier, where it's like I wrote something and I knew it wasn't working, and I just kept going, knowing that something was gonna change with that, but still knowing where I wanted it to go. So I did progress, but then I was like, I've got it, and I went back and just rewrote it the way that I needed it. I've probably done that a lot more than just the once though. Like I've had many chapters that have just been scrapped. And I've written chapters not knowing full well that they weren't going to go in the book, but just so I had a clearer idea of the scene when I write the recollection of it. Like if somebody's kind of like, this is how these people met, and I know the story of how they met and what, like all that happened, what was said, because I wrote that scene, even though I wasn't putting it in the book.
Now that's interesting. I've not had anybody tell me that they do that before.
It's a lot of
I'm interested in that. So you'll actually, because if it's like a flashback or they're trying to like recount history, you're saying you actually will write out their like the scene, so that it like lives in your head when you're like, yeah, I like that. That's fascinating.
It puts a little bit more detail in the scene itself, and sometimes I need it. Sometimes I just need I need that clarity. I need to know what the situation is around and what's going on and how this plays out. But then sometimes I'm like, I could just have an idea and be like, oh, that's roughly how this happened. It depends. But I've had a few where I've written out how it plays out, knowing that it's just going to be from my own little the developing of the story.
Yeah, I like that. That's fascinating. I feel like I probably like tell myself in my head, but if not like written things out. Maybe steal the idea.
It's helpful on days that I'm not like I would have a lot of days that I'd write down or sit down rather and start to write, but not really know where I'm going exactly. But I'm still in a place where I want to write and use the creativity. So it would just be like a fun exercise to still be pushing forward in the story in some way, just not necessarily the progress of the story that I usually like, but it, it helps.
Do you try and make a daily habit of writing, or how do you handle balancing that with life?
Um, when I'm actively in a story, yes, I try to sit down for at least an hour at nighttime when everyone goes to bed. It, right now, with like the launch of the book, and it's not like I'm not making progress in my work as an author. I'm still moving forward. I'm not like actively writing something all the time because my head just can't be in that place if I've got something going on here. So like with the launch of this book,
Yeah,
it's like,
interviews,
yeah,
promotions.
exactly, yeah. It takes up
Yeah.
so much like brain space. With the push for this and the marketing and the social media and being like present there, I've stepped back from just like at least writing nightly like what I normally would. Although now after today and just kind of like settling back into normalcy, I have some stuff that I am working on, but like no severe deadline. I'm trying to just chill a little bit because when I get into it, I become quite obsessive in my writing, and I get like my head is there, and I love being in that space, and I love like just being in the world, and so it's I gotta read it.
There you
Yes,
go.
yes, I've
Side
done
job
that
just
too.
yeah.
Yeah, I've done that too, where it's like, oh, God, did I put that in the book? I can't remember it. Or characters that you'd written, and it's like I can't remember if they're named or not. But I do like to have a habit just because it's easier to maintain, and habits are great. I am a creature of habit. I love routine. I'm learning this about myself too, where I used to think I hated routine and like despised it. Now I'm like, oh, actually, I think I thrive with a routine. Go
It's
figure.
the establishing the routine that's tough. Once you have it, then it's like,
Yeah,
oh.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. The establishing is the hardest part.
Yeah,
It takes very little to lose habits too. So
that's that's true. I'll just do it tomorrow, and then
yeah,
tomorrow, and then tomorrow.
very easy.
All right. So tell me about the getting the word out and now what your plans are as far as you have this finished series and obviously you want it in the hands of readers. Everybody, I think we're all floundering around in the world of trying to get ourselves out there in marketing. You're obviously talking to me, which is something. So you're trying to get some 40 eyeballs on it.
Yeah, I'm 40. That's good.
Hopefully
Um,
more, and it'll be out there in the future. So
yeah, yeah. The beauty of this streaming. I've done a few of these. I was at chapters at my like in my city here with a book signing yesterday that was supposed to be a book launch with new books. It wasn't. The printers contacted me like they're doing a whole switch over, and they've had glitches, and it was the day before I was supposed to pick up, and they're like, yeah, they're not going to be ready.
oh no.
So thankfully I still had like Bloodbound and Unbound. Um, so I still went for that, and I was promoting it and talking about it, the new one still. What else? I do a lot of markets, like local in-person events close to me. Like we have a big book sale thing happening with like used books that are in this huge arena, but
Mhm.
they started doing this authors alley where they'll have local authors come and like bring our tables with our books. So there's a whole bunch of us that I connected with over the years, and just like farmers markets, like they're actually excellent because especially like around Christmas time, people are looking for gifts for people for Christmas, and you're like, hey, are they a book lover? Do they like fantasy? It's perfect. Got a gift. So I
I
like
got
doing
one
stuff
for
like
you.
that. What's that?
I got one for you.
Exactly. Yeah. There you go. It's a lot of fun, and I like the interaction. I like the building of community around me and meeting people. Like today, the event that I was at was a speaking event as an author. Like they invited me to come because they know I'm a local author and speak at our event. And I'm like, yep, never done public speaking in my life, but let's go for it. But just like being able to take those opportunities and do that. I think is also a huge thing because in a few different places now, people are like, "Oh, I've heard of you. Oh, I've heard of your work," and it's like, and I'm still surprised every time. I'm like, "What?" But it's like, I guess I'm doing stuff like on social media and putting it out there, and um, did like local interviews with the paper here, and I think there's a show on one of like the morning channels for the news. They do kind of artists and creatives, so something like that coming up, and really just talking and being in the community and present. It's huge. So
Yeah. The
yeah,
goal is to get local famous. That's a good way to.
yeah. Apparently, I'm better at in person. I do really like. I've done really well over the course of like since I published Bloodbound with the in person stuff and getting connected in the community. The online stuff, I'm just starting to pick up a little more now this year and feeling like, okay, I've got a really good community around me, and just like, it's great, and being able to like say, hey, I wrote these books, and learning how to talk about them and myself, and being confident that I'm confident in my work. I love what I do. I love what I write, and trusting that the right people will come across my work. And because writing is, or reading, I should say, is a subjective thing where it's not for everybody, but trusting and hoping that the right people come across your path and you're like, yes, this is exactly what I wanted or needed.
So, what's your going to like a farmer's market or something like that? How do you catch those eyeballs? What's your pitch?
But usually I just have my table set up. I've got some nice greenery because my book has like magic plants and things that a magical vine that comes to life and kills people. They're brutal. But I have my table set up, and usually the book people find me pretty quick. They look over and they see they're like books, and I'm very obviously fantasy. I make it so that like there's not really any guessing. Although I have had people ask me if it's romance fantasy, and I'm like, no, there's no romance. But I usually pitch Bloodbound first because it's the first in the series, and I have my usual. It's the curse that wipes out magic, and the twin brothers, their blood is entwined. So I give like the whole thing, and then I go on for Unbound, and then now with the third book, I'm probably just going to pitch the whole series. But
Yeah.
I'm because I haven't had a chance to like have the third one yet. Yeah, how am I going to do this? Am I going to do one, two? It depends. You kind of read the people too, and if they're looking like they're eager to just like, hey, give me the spiel and move on, kind of thing. It's like I sum it up into like keywords: magic, curses, good versus evil, and then if people are there and they're actually like wanting to really hear like the detail, I'll go into it a little more. It becomes a little bit of an art of understanding or looking like reading the people. I should just say that.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
it's always different, and I've had people where it's like I'm talking and I'm like, they clearly are sick of this now. They should just let them go.
Now, have you had people come up and they're interested to talk to you, not necessarily as a customer, but as a writer? Like they want advice or they're interested in that
Yeah,
kind of thing?
yeah. You get the people come up and they're like, oh, I've had this idea for this book, and then they start to give me the whole idea. I'm like, that's really cool. Like, write it, do it. What's
Yeah.
stopping you? I have had that, yeah. And even today at the event that I was at, a lady came in and she bought my book, but then she's like, my granddaughter's writing. What kind of advice would you give her? Like, and so it's really cool. Just like that, it's like, don't get hung up with revising and making it perfect because it's not going to be. Just write it.
Yep.
So yeah, that it's a lot of fun.
Awesome. All right. So at this point, what I usually do is I try and give you an opportunity. I don't know if you have anything that you would like to read from this particular book. I know spoilers potentially. um, but I give you the opportunity to read something
Okay,
so that people can get a feel for the prose, for the flair, and you can.
I get my thing up here. I don't because I don't have a physical copy. I'm doing it on my
Yeah,
Kindle.
you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah, I was, yeah. I just read at the event that I was at. Part of what my speaking was also to read an excerpt from any of my books. I chose Bloodbound because it's my first, and it's kind of my go-to that I go to the right place. I have never read anything out loud from this one to anybody except my parents, but I will read chapter one if that's it might be too
By
long.
all means.
I won't do a whole chapter. Will I?
You can read part of it. It's up to you. We have time.
You know what? I'll read from the beginning and then I'll just see where if that's not like just stop me if I'm sounding like I'm drawing. Waves rolled along the shore of Ribbon Beach. Seagulls squalled amid the steady rhythm of the powerful sea pounding against the earth. Soon the tide would come in and the entrance to Mark's hideaway would be blocked. The only way in or out of the small horseshoe-shaped cove was through a narrow opening accessible when the tide was low. Lines along the rocks and sand marked the spot where the water would rise up to when it was high tide. Mark ducked under a few low ridges in the cliff wall, then lowered himself to the ground so he could crawl under an arching tree root. Entering the cove was like traveling through a portal into another world, going from beach to jungle. The space was no bigger than his sitting room at home. From above, the edge of the cliff stuck out as if it were floating in midair. Roots and branches of thick trees overhead held it connected to the mound of land above. The roots from a tree at the top of the cliff jutted out from the walls, leaving it half buried in the soil and stone, the other half reaching for the sandy beach. A few glimpses of sky were visible through small gaps of dangling branches. Even when the weather was foul, the cove remained mostly untouched in the sheltered nook tucked into the inlet of Cartha's northern peninsula. In here, when the water rose, it would be up to Mark's shins, but a little farther in, through the recessed section of the cliff wall, the den remained dry and sheltered. Mark slouched and entered the secluded spot, which he'd taken to calling the pocket. His hand shook as he prepared the kindling and wood in the corner where he lit previous fires in the past. Once it was ready, he retrieved his flint and steel and lit a fire. After coming as often as he did, he started leaving blankets and candles during each visit, until eventually he'd wound up with a cozy little place that he could retreat to. Every once in a while, it was nice to have a place to go where he didn't have to wonder if soldiers would come crashing through the door to arrest him at any moment. He paced the small space while trying to still his trembling. Seeing Belle never made him so nervous, but tonight was different. Tonight could change everything. His stomach ached from how nervous he felt. He didn't know why he was so nervous. She'd already accepted his proposal. But what if she changed her mind? What if she didn't get her father's approval and decided she didn't want to marry him after all? Mark had to take a deep breath to calm himself down. They already knew that the chances were slim that her father would bless her marriage to the second most wanted man in Cartha, second only to Mark's mentor and trainer, Trey. Belle had expressed that she'd just as soon run away with him than speak to her father. It was Mark who felt compelled to adhere to the customs. He'd have gone himself, but Belle had insisted that it would be better if she spoke to him. Mark didn't have to wait long before Belle crawled through the opening. With the ebb and flow of the sea, timing was everything. She barely had to bend down to clear the arch. She entered the den and brushed sand from her hands. Mark beheld her, waiting for her eyes to meet his. When they did, his joy withered. Shadows formed under her swollen eyes, which typically sparkled with joy. The dark blue in her irises shimmered, glossy with tears. A knot clenched in his stomach. "That doesn't look like good news," Mark said, trying to keep the strain out of his voice. Belle dried her eyes and pulled her shoulders back. She looked like she was drawing from the inner strength that Mark had seen on multiple occasions. The circumstances almost always had to do with her father. Mark's throat tightened, but he tried to sound encouraging. He didn't give his blessing. It wasn't a question. That had to be the reason she looked distraught. His small flicker of hope died. He swallowed the flood of emotions that rose up inside him. He held his arms out for Belle, and she stepped into his embrace. "What happened?" he asked. Belle's attempt to remain strong withered, and her shoulders sank. She squeezed him tight and buried her face in his chest. "I didn't get the chance to ask." Her voice was muffled against his shirt. Wet warmth from her tears seeped through the fabric. The lost hope began to reform in his chest. Could that mean there was still a chance that Exel might bless their union? But then, why the tears? Belle lifted her eyes to meet his. He's accepted a marriage from Landon Valka." Mark loosened his arms around her. His sadness was replaced with fury. What did Landon Valka have to do with Belle? Sure, her father was a political man, and what politician didn't want the favor of a powerful man? But still, Landon could have anyone he wanted. Why Belle? It wasn't as though a marriage to her gave him any strategic advantage. Mark let Belle go, clenched his hands into fists, and considered, not for the first time, storming over to the Valka keep to challenge Landon. If he believed for a second that he'd agreed to a single combat duel, Mark might have actually followed through, but that wasn't who Landon was. The man had an army, and Mark had a reputation. No, to challenge him, he'd just be giving Landon exactly what he'd want, the leader of the anti-order in his clutches, or rather, ex-leader. Either way, it made no difference to Landon whether or not he led the rebellion. The only thing Landon cared about was that Mark was a Darner. That was all most people seemed to care about, his name. To some, it represented the rebellion. To others, it pegged him as an outlaw. But to Mark, all it did was make his life miserable. I'll stop there.
Oh, poor guy.
Yeah. That's about half the first chapter, so
Awesome. All
good luck.
right. Well, congratulations on your new book coming out. Congratulations on a full series being available. That's a wonderful accomplishment. You have surpassed George R. R. Martin now.
That was the goal.
That was it.
You know what? I actually, my editor had said, she's like, you know what? What's a goal that you have? Always something to strive forward to. And I was like, you know what? Right now, my goal is just to finish a series and
Can
not
I finish this?
Yeah, because it was like, there's people who are just like angry with like Patrick Rothfuss and George R. R.
Yeah.
Martin. I'm like, I don't want them to be. The people pleaser in me is like, don't be mad at me.
I'm going to do this. I'm going to finish this.
Yeah. But yeah.
So, with that, where can people find you? So they want to
Easiest-
buy any of these books.
Easiest way is to Google my name, Trinity Cunningham, and my website comes up, trinitycunningham.ca. All my socials are linked to my website, my link tree. I'm quite easy to find. It's scary. But yeah, they're all on Amazon. My books, I also have them on my website. I haven't been boosting this at all. It's Inherent Bound is on sale on my website right now for $2.99 Canadian. I don't know how that works out with the exchange, but yeah, so that's happening right now.
Awesome.
Yeah, otherwise, yeah, my
Well,
website.
so are you actually selling? I'm going to key in on this because I'm curious. Are you selling direct off of your through a store or something on your website directly then?
Yeah, just the ebooks right now. I haven't figured out shipping, and it's easy enough to do the ebooks because I'm already set up through Square, like all of it, and that's what my website. So it was like a quick, just throw it in items in a store, and I'm like, oh, that's actually really not hard at all, which I thought it would be. But the paperbacks, I have to think more on the shipping part of it. So
yeah, that's cool. I like that. I like the authors that are moving towards that, cut out the middleman stuff, and
yeah,
folks, if you want to go buy it direct. Yeah.
There you go. I think I'm the only one who bought from. I was testing it out. I don't know how this works, so testing it out.
No, that makes sense.
It's there. Yeah.
All right, cool. So you can find Trinity, search your name, go to our website, buy our books direct, ideally, but they're available on Amazon, and everybody's probably gonna go there.
It's okay. I still make royalties.
That said, it's been a pleasure to talk to you. Is there anything as far as like last words, pieces of advice that you would give folks as we sign off here that would be helpful either on their writing journey or even as a reader, anything that you would want to impart as wisdom on the end here?
Just whatever I said earlier. What did I say? Don't get hung up on the revising and editing, right? Just keep writing, just keep going. And for, I guess, advice that I've got to learn to take right now. Just ease up and go easy on yourself, because I've been doing a lot lately myself personally, and if you're that person, just like chill out. That's what I need to hear. So yeah, no, that's probably it. I said a lot.
No, that's great. I appreciate taking the time to talk with me. I apologize again for the issues that I was having yesterday. I'm glad we could meet shortly after. Again, I like to do these on release day. Is supposed to be a party, right?
Oh, it's still a party.
But one day is not too bad, so we'll take it. I think this has gone wonderful. I think you're the first woman that I've had on this podcast. Everybody else has been a dude, so I'm excited that I'm branching out into the world and getting a little more diversity represented here. I guess I can't even count myself, because when my book came on, I interviewed the guy that does my audiobook. So it's
there you go.
I appreciate you coming on and being a first for me. I've had a great time.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me. This was lots of fun, and just making it work, and with the network issues, no problem. This was good. Thank you.
All right, guys, check out Trinity's books. I'm gonna go ahead and end this stream, and I will be back probably in a couple weeks. I don't have anybody lined up, but I'm going to start looking, folks. I'm looking.